This one's crazy. So this is EXO. They are a boy group, and there's 8 members in this music video, so you're gonna see a lot of people. This was released in 2017 under SM Entertainment, and I believe it was Flexible Pictures and Kim Jak-young who worked on the visual effects and directing and stuff.
Oh, cool. So they have a lot of this sort of film grain, lightly kind of look on top, and that's a aesthetic choice to give it sort of a feel of old film. That distortion would have been some sort of wave filter going over it. That was probably a CG element for the car and chair and whatnot. They could have shot it practically, but I'm guessing something like this would have been CG. I think it would be a little bit easier to set up and control sort of what you're getting. The smoke would be a CG simulation that they're then integrating around. I think that the car driving itself, they would have been pulling it practically on set, and then if the tow vehicle or the cable or anything got into frame, that would be an invisible effect that would then get removed. So, for something like this, my guess what they did is they had a pool for him to jump into, and like an above ground sort of pool, and then took it out and reshot it with the table there in the same place, and then they cut the top off and use the footage from here up where he's jumping into it, and then below have the second take where it is just the table, and then you can sort of, because it's the same sort of perspective and everything, it integrates really well together. So him jumping into so they use the splash, and him jumping in is a different shot than just the table? Yeah, essentially you can imagine that there's, and it's all speculation at this point, but you can imagine that there is a pool that is basically the same size, and he jumps into and the water comes up, and from, like, this would be the top of the pool. Okay. And then take it out, reshoot it with the table, and then just cut that footage so that the first take ends right about here, and then the second take is below that. One place where it gets a little bit tricky is you have the water drops going in front of it, and so you would have to isolate those and bring them back. And that could be done by rotoing the individual water drops, or it could be augmenting it with additional elements, depending on the color of the pool that he's jumping into. If that matched closely enough, you could also blend it so that the line was a little bit lower, and the top of the table became the top of the pool sort of thing. This would have been a CG cloud that they generated and simulated the sort of undulations and movement, and then the rain would have been generated from that as well, and then they would have tracked the whole thing in and lit it to be very similar to the shot, and then composited it together. I'm not sure exactly how they would have done this shot. It could have been shooting an actual hamburger from a bunch of different angles as an element. I don't think that it would be a CG hamburger, because it would take a lot of time to sort of set the look for every part of that, but it also could have been a stock element that got used, and then it looks like there's some additional filter going on with it over the meat part. Is that the meat? The pink and blue? Yeah. I think it's the meat. Okay. Yes, on the meat. I think that this would have been a water simulation and a person on a green screen that is then composited into the washing machine. It could have also been like a fish tank element, but I'm not 100%. This, generally, he would have been shot on a green screen sitting on a stand-in for the cloud, and then the cloud would be built around that and then inserted into this scene. He could have also been shot on the ground level, essentially, and then rotoed out and lifted up. We did something very similar on CL Lifted. The flying plants and chairs could have been on wires, or they could have been a CG element. Either one would have worked. I think that effect of the car moving forward and him moving backwards would have been done practically similar to before, where they're pulling the car and possibly having him on like a sled that drags him back, and then just clever framing so you don't see that. This, they would have built a model of the ground and then shattered it and applied the sort of rainbow texture to the inside of the shatter, and then the video texture to the top of it. And so the outside is the normal video, and when it breaks apart and you see the digital part, it's that rainbow texture. That would have been a lightning piece that they generated, and there's a handful of plugins that all do that sort of thing, and you sort of specify the start and end point and how much it moves. That would have been... I'm not sure if the light trail going up would have been just the rocket that they're launching the fireworks from, or if they're doing something to that. But they're using clever editing to sort of transition from the ball bouncing up out of frame and continuing the motion, and then they could be taking a fireworks element and adding it on top to sort of blend that together. Mm-hmm. Or it could be that this is just a shot of a firework launching and getting it in the sky. There's no real way to know. That would have been the similar sort of thing. Throw the ball up, cut to a different shot, animate the light going up, and then have this sort of bright flash in the sky is something that would be a relatively easy effect to do, but still give a cool result.
There you go. So next we're reacting to DPR Live, and this video was released in 2018 and directed and edited by Christian Yu, who did all of the editing for Bobby's Holup.
I'm not sure if the tiger is something that they shot on set, or if it was another element or CG, but it could have been any of those. That would have been an overlay pattern that they're putting on the umbrella. This, I'm guessing they would have shot, like they would have built the set so that it was tilted on its side, and would have shot like the guy sweeping straight down, and he'd be sitting on the bench, kind of laying on the floor, so it looks like he's sitting.
Would it be two different shots, or this is just one set?
Likely, it could be one set. However, it could go either way. If this was sort of like a key set piece for it, I would probably build it as one set. But if it was a one-off or two-shot thing, then it wouldn't be too hard to find a place that you could match sort of this up with a set that you built looking straight down and kind of splice them together. If it was a repeating setup, I would probably build the set that way and just shoot it in one take to save time and money. This, they would be isolating the stripes on it and adding a video in there. That looks like it's a displacement that they're doing. It's the sort of hexagon pattern and sort of shifting the image around based off of this sort of hexagon shape that they would then isolate the area and control how much it turns on and off. That would have been either on green screen or rotoscoped, and then duplicating the footage and shifting it in position so it creates that sort of echo effect. And then the background would have been a pattern that they're creating.
Whoa.
Assuming that it's the sort of tilted set and that this is actually the floor, it looks like she's actually being moved across it because the lighting stays consistent and moves across in a way that I expect it to. I'm not sure if this is actually moving. It seems like they could have very well animated the sidewalk sort of compressing down and then have her pulled across and then removed whatever cable or thing that she was on that was moving her. But that's all sort of assuming that this set is tilted 90 degrees and we're shooting it straight down. If they didn't do it that way, it could have been dragging her in the computer. But again, the lighting, they did a good job on her shadow here, so if they did that, props to them. The other thing that could have been is it might not be a straight 90-degree set. They could have angled it up a little bit to get a little bit of slide in there, depending on how they're doing it. And that last shot where the person comes down could have been achieved that way. That effect on the monkey was probably isolating it and then adding a color effect to him. Same with the donkey. That they would have probably shot this a little bit. There's more information in the video, and then they added the black bars in the editing process. But then for this specific shot, having the coconut fly above that, they would have brought it back on top and done the color sort of treatment to it. That would have been a transition effect where they sort of matched the framing and then fade up. On this one, did a little bit of a black and white sketch effect to it. That might just be a color thing that they're doing as they're bringing it up, but it gives that sort of feel to it. A lot of these lighting and color changes would be done on set with the actual lights set to different colors and turning on and off. This is using very clever matching of framing to transition between the shots and the patterns and then the umbrellas. They might be doing a little bit of crossfades and whatnot in there, but it is mostly matching the position and framing and then switching between the two. That is basically taking the image and mirroring the other side of it, and so you get that sort of effect of it folding in on itself. They're adding a little bit of glow to, I think it's water droplets, but they might have some glittery stuff at their feet, but they are enhancing that with a little bit of a glow to exaggerate it and bring it out a little bit more. This, they're isolating some of the colors in the bricks and then adjusting it so that it sort of changes color with the music. That, I'm guessing, would have been a smoke element. That is like a stock element that you can purchase and then integrate it into the scene.
There you go. Yeah, I can't tell whether that's CG or real.
The tiger? I think it's a real tiger, but I don't think it's actually in the scene. If you look at the paw, it's kind of a sharp edge, which makes me think that they cut it out of some other shot and then integrated it into this one. And then they're doing a little bit of like overall color, and they're matching the shadow on it to sort of make it feel like it's in the frame. But that is really just a guess. There could be a number of different ways that they did it.